Saturday night, everybody. It's 8 p.m. in Pacific time, and this is the fourth Talk of Our Times, and I'm incredibly grateful that you guys are here. And I'm going to tell you like what life has become, for me, and maybe it'll resonate with you. And I actually pulled some news stories, and then afterwards we're gonna do a live chat. Right now I have it turned around so that I can't see what you guys are commenting, but we're gonna do a live chat afterwards. So just so you know, I had a wonderful day, and I wasn't sure that I was going to, because I woke up with a weird form of sort of, I don't want to say melancholy, but nostalgia. I guess it's nostalgia. I already feel nostalgia for 2019. I feel nostalgia for coming and going as I please. I feel sort of a low-lying subtext of what now? What now? So I decided to go for a run. And I said, you know what, Monique? You don't have to run in your neighborhood. Number one, there's a lot of homeless. And number two, I've always been a believer in aspirations. When I was younger, I would go park my car in a nice neighborhood and walk there or run there. That was back in the day when we used to wear leg warmers and we carried heavy hands, and you would swing your heavy hands wearing your leg warmers. And I would park in this neighborhood, in Miami, Coral Gables on the waterway, and I would walk and swing my heavy hands and listen to wonderful music. And it's interesting because the song in the summer of 1983, that was sort of my song. I had wait for it, a full Jane Fonda workout on song. Okay, so I had a grape purple animal print onesie, tank onesie, and then it had purple like boy shorts that you pulled over the onesie, and black leg warmers. So I was just this vision in purple and black, walking through Coral Gables, swinging my heavy hands, listening to, at that time, the Michael Jackson Thriller album was the album. And I just remember listening over, and my dog is not understanding. She's not part of the show. And I just remember that, the fast songs, the rhythms, Billie Jean, they kept you going. But then there would be moments where Human Nature would come on. And I don't know what it looks like to you, but it must look funny if you can see her. She's very insistent. And Human Nature, there was something about the song Human Nature that if you say, why, there's a softness, there's a beauty to human nature. And even thinking about what that is, what human nature is, it would give me pause. That was my cool down. That was my reflection song. That was my let my arms dangle to the side song. And, there was a lot of emotion rattling around in my brain when Michael Jackson died. And then there was even a worse moment during the trials. And then there were worse moments watching Leaving Neverland. And, certain songs play and they fill me with, I can't express the emotion. I can't express the emotion. It's very hard to separate the art from the artist, and where there's smoke, there's fire. So clearly something inappropriate happened, even if it was just like, what 36-year-old man needs a slumber party with children, shrug. So Nola, down, stop, go get in your bed. So that being said, today I went for a walk in another neighborhood, and I took my set list and I didn't change it. And as I was driving, I realized that my dry cleaners, and they're these wonderful Armenian people that I genuinely love. I've been going to their store forever, and the mother crochets things and sells it on a separate table year round. You can get beautiful blankets and Afghans, and they're a family. They're an actual family. Sister, brother, sister got engaged. Mom makes baklava at Christmas for 1 week. One week I was on a cruise ship and they saved me the baklava. And it's funny, I feel the emotion rising. I said, let me check on them. I love them. And I drove into their parking lot and they were there. She was there. The one girl, the daughter, was there. And I I parked the car willy-nilly and I jumped out. There was nobody else in the parking lot. And she ran to the open door and I said, I don't have any dry cleaning and I don't need anything. And hi, you're there. And she said, yeah, we're here, 12 to 6. How are you? I said, I'm fine. She said, I thought of you so many times because I would always tell her, I need this by next week. I'm getting on a cruise, or I need this by next week. I'm flying someplace. I'm going to Australia. I need this dress. I'm always in a hurry and I'm always running late. Not anymore. And you know, seeing my dry cleaner brought me to tears today. I guess that's the long and the short of it. Seeing them well and not shuttered, and knowing that they're going to be there when I drop off my favorite dress. You know, talk about never taking anything for granted. Like my friend David lives in New York. He's a makeup artist, the best. At you know, I want to say Bergdorf, but he's, you know, it's a fancy place, and I'll post it afterwards. And he always sends me gifts. And you know, today I was putting on my super sparkly eyeshadow that David sent me for good luck, and I was thinking, when will I go back to New York? I love New York. When will I walk the streets of New York and it'll be regular and or something akin to regular? I don't know. But I apologize. I didn't expect to get like ramp up this fast. And especially when I expressed to you that I had a good day, because I did. Because it goes a step further. It goes a step further than seeing my dry cleaner and being overwhelmed with joy. Literally joy, like a long lost something. You know, and so many of us have a long lost something. That as I was, you know, running, as I run now, like I fully run. This isn't prancercise or heavy hands. It's just me, one foot in front of the other. And by the way, I didn't start really running. I signed up for a half marathon when I was 43. So I've only been running a few years, but I enjoy it because I'm the runner. And we're going to talk about that in a minute. I touched on it during the week on my Facebook Live show, but I really want to talk about it with you guys. And as I ran, Human Nature came on. Because when Michael Jackson passed, I bought the Essential Michael Jackson in June of 2009. I remember exactly where I was sitting in San Diego when I got the text from my friend Greg Sims, my partner on Monique and the Man, that Michael Jackson had passed. I know I could picture the pizza in front of me. I could picture the restaurant in Little Italy in San Diego. I can picture the, you know, feel the emotion and what sort of washed over me. And Human Nature came on as I was running because I bought the Essential Michael Jackson years ago when he passed. And I just had my phone, my playlist on shuffle. Remember when we had those little bitty iPods that you would clip? I still have one. But I was actually using my phone and I just let it shuffle. And it hit Human Nature. And I felt this release, this epiphany, this letting go of another person's narrative. That at that point I realized that I never knew Michael Jackson. I only knew his music. And I don't know what did or didn't happen. Do I think something inappropriate happened? Absolutely. I don't know what happened to him is what was actually on the plate. I don't know what made him do what he did. Because nothing happens in a vacuum. And people are born, I think, predisposed to goodness. I do believe that. And most certainly if you go back and see him singing, you know, with the Jackson 5 and Stop the Love You Save, that's not a bad, nefarious, bad seed of a child. It's a beautiful, phenomenally talented person. And I had this weird feeling that something was being washed away in this invisible flood. I keep referring to this time as sort of an invisible Noah's Ark, that there's a flood that's washing things that it's time to let go of and wash away. And in my case, it was judgment, and it was that feeling in my soul, that conflict of loving the song and feeling weird about the artist and not knowing the story and injecting myself in the story in a place that maybe I didn't belong because I don't know, and because a court of law determined other things that don't matter anymore. And it was the first time in a long time that I heard human nature, and all I thought was the summer of '83 and my Jane Fonda leg warmers. Everything between the summer of '83 and this afternoon seeing my dry cleaner was washed away. It was gone. I couldn't conjure any emotion other than how much I loved that song, how much I loved being healthy and being able to put one foot in front of the other and enjoy the song in its entirety of its beauty, and enjoy knowing that my car was parked in the parking lot of an old friend, because my dry cleaner said, just leave it here. It's safe. I can watch it. Where it's usually 5-minute parking and you have to get right out. So one of my friends, I really hesitate to call people fans because it's short for fanatic. And, I don't think any of you are fanatics. I just think that you're discerning. You have good taste and you've chosen my work. So I'm going to call you friends I haven't met yet. I'm just going to call you friends, especially now. So Ginger, who used to listen to my show on KFI, said that one of the things she loved so much was the music, and how I would painstakingly pick every song, what we call bumper music, to fit the stories. So, Ginger, I don't have the rights right now that I can play music in the background, but if I were to have picked a song, it would have been Human Nature. And as I do share with you my feelings, I will give you songs that I think can maybe go along with what we're talking about. So, I write an awful lot and I think about things in the micro and the macro, me and the world. And one of the things that I really wanted to drum down is the longer it goes, it's physics, the longer it goes. And here, we just got extended in California till May 15th, which is, it's a long time. It's a month, another month. And I've been in my home nearly 5 weeks. And here's what's interesting about that, is that I'm okay with it. I was reading about how people that are marginalized, there was a whole article on what was called Crip Time. And Crip Time, and I pulled all of these things up on my iPad, but I don't, since we're together, you and I don't feel comfortable like tilting my head down and constantly reading. But some of the stories that were very interesting to me there was one in the Atlantic called The Pandemic Summer. And I get information from everywhere, and I'm a curious person. And even though I'm not on KFI anymore, I'm still very curious about what's going on in the world. But in this article, they were talking about recalibration and Crip Time, and how people that have ongoing physical maladies, whether it's a physical problem of, loss of mobility, or a health problem, or having to be on dialysis, cystic fibrosis, people that are connected to externalities that they need to live. It's a little bit like they're starting to feel like, welcome to our world. We have a different time frame than you do. Everything in our life revolves around either this machine or this schedule or this invisible thing that can attack us at any time and throw us into fits or pain or end our life. And I thought about how time now has completely changed meaning and shape for me. As much as we think like, oh, it's going to drag on, I'm not going to lie to you. This month went fast. We're on our 4th show. It went like that. And I want to feel like I'm making good use of the time. But you got to ask yourself, what does that mean? What is good use? Is good use resting? Is good use finally putting your photo albums together? Is good use, dragging a piece of furniture out onto the balcony and painting it because you've wanted to, but you didn't have the time? See, we're kind of on our own now. We're on our own. And as much as in the beginning part of the week, and I can't believe it's Saturday because Monday seems a million years ago. But evidently there was this whole who shot John. And and it's funny even when I say that expression, who shot John. Well, I think my dad would say, oh, that's a who shot John, meaning it's confusion, it's chaotic. What really happened? Who's in charge? Well, I never even thought that it probably originated with President Kennedy. Hello? But evidently it may have. And this situation is a little bit chaotic. And I want to talk to you about the opportunity in chaos. And I want to talk about the fear of the unknown that chaos creates. And what happens is that when you're grappling, I'm going to give you sort of a big picture view of this. The mind, your mind, my mind, everyone's mind. This is a proven, when I say proven psychological tenet, but the mind hates the void. Your mind will fill itself with information, ideas, hypotheticals, rather than sit in the not knowing. Sitting in the not knowing is the mind's most uncomfortable place. That's why meditation is hard to master, and thinking of nothing. When people say think of nothing, well, that's a tough one. Your brain's always going. I'm not going to lie, I've never mastered the think of nothing thing. I've mastered the think of slow moving things, like happy things, but not the nothing things. So the reason why I say that your mind will fill the void, think about when you've been in distress at another part of your life, where maybe you were heartbroken, somebody dumped you. And I just went through this with a cousin that I love very much, who went through a very, very hard breakup. And the hypotheticals, I call it reshuffling the deck. Why did they leave? Where did they go? Are they seeing someone else? If it's confirmed that they are, do they love them? Do they miss me? Is it going to last? Are they going to come back to me? See, these are just the micro, the personal of the macro, what's going to happen after this pandemic. I looked up Hermosa Comedy and Magic Club. That's kind of my home club. It's been there for 40 plus years, and it's solid, and the owners are financially solid. And it said that, until further notice, they don't have shows. Okay. It didn't say, we're so sorry that after 40 years we're gone. So that's 2 for 2, my dry cleaner and my home club. But then I started thinking about, Passover, and I started thinking in my own life, the old question that they ask, why is today different than any other day? Because the question in Passover is, why is tonight different than any other night? And I started thinking about why? Why is it different? I'm home to Saturday. Well, I'm doing a show, just like I did on KFI. I have food. Most of my bills are paid. I'm not particularly anxious. And I started really thinking about what's been taken from me, if anything's been taken from me other than money. And not only has nothing been taken from me, because I don't see the inability to mix and mingle with other people as something being taken from me. In fact, in recent times, I had started kind of ghosting people, to be perfectly candid, because I felt like I spent a little too much time not thinking about what mattered to me. And I wrote a list of what matters to me now. And it's the ability to do my work and to get what is inside of me birthed and on the outside. So I have had so many ideas for so many years. Ideas for shows, ideas for doing a sort of a performance book on YouTube, what I call a litcast, which is doing my book for you. A lot of people don't realize it, and I'm absolutely not saying this is a great literary work because I've never read it, but 50 Shades of Grey started as an internet, as a web series of sort of fan, I don't even know what it's called, but this woman basically enjoyed the Twilight series and went a step further and, basically sort of the Twilight chat, and I'm paraphrasing and speaking, without like facts, but imagine that somebody who's worth millions and millions of dollars and has had a franchise of movies made started as sort of this hypersexual fan writings in chat rooms about the Twilight series. It wasn't even an original idea. It was an extrapolation of, let's take the vampires one step further. And I research all of these things because I'm a curious person. And I think about what I have inside of me, what books, what one woman shows, what shows, what comedy premises. And there's sort of like buckets, and or let's say your inbox on your desk, if you ever had a desk like that, where it's like, and here's material for my stand-up, and here's material for this, and here's material for that. And I've been sort of going and going and going, and all of a sudden I have this gift where I've been handed a get out of jail free, a you don't have to go to coffee with that person anymore, because nobody expects it. And nobody expects to see you. Everybody understands if you're not able to see them. And what a gift for so many of us who have lived our lives. I don't want to say that we're all Wadsworth and we've lived our lives in quiet desperation, but how many of you have lived your lives in some form of obligation? You had to do certain things because you felt you had to. You really didn't want to. You didn't want to be the carpool mom, but it fell on you. And you didn't know how to say, you know what, I'm always the one that drives the kids. Or you're the person who picks the other person up because they complain about the traffic going in the direction of your house. And I can tell you that I'm the person, and I'm not saying this in a proud way. It's really kind of the opposite. When I care for people and love people, I tend to not meet them halfway. I tend to run completely at them and pin them against the wall. So I do what it takes to see people. And now I've realized, in the last few months, as my life has changed and shifted before this event, I thought, you know what, Monique, you're not a kid anymore. How do you really want to spend your time? What really matters? What's really important? And then I started thinking about the people that don't meet me halfway, that don't reciprocate. I seem to go out of my way to meet them. I seem to constantly have to send them my avails and shuffle and shimmy and figure out how to spend time with them. That's over. That got washed away. That's gone in the invisible flood. When this is over, when I call people and they say, let's hang out, and I say when, and they say next Tuesday at 2, they better be there next Tuesday at 2. I don't want to get a call on Tuesday at 11 that they're held up at the office and they can't make it. I don't want that call. I don't mind the Monday night something came up. But when I want to do something, I set up the time because I understand how precious time is. And those of us who have worked, from home, we're entrepreneurs, we're self-starters, we don't have to, people feel like, oh, well, if you don't have a real job, you're flexible. I can bail on you. They don't value my time the same way they value meeting a friend with a 9-to-5 job at lunch someplace, because they only have an hour and you can't bail on them and they planned it. I'm saying these things because one of the other things I started thinking about, and I've talked about it before, I touched on it a little bit this week, but I very much want to kind of stress, I want to get back to runners and gunners, because one of the things I thought about was in our culture, in Western culture, in America, we have constructs, we have We have, you have you work in a corporate structure, and there's memos and there's chain of command, and you don't go over people's heads, and there's a whole rigmarole of what it takes to work within the corporate structure. And although I haven't had a job, I've worked within the structure because I've had jobs at TV stations and radio stations, and they run in a very specific way. And even if you're quote unquote talent, you still have to, follow certain rules and decorum. There was a time in radio and TV before I got into it where evidently talent, they could drink and pass out and hit on the secretary or do whatever. But I came along when you would get brochures that say sexual harassment hurts everyone. I remember one time reading this brochure at a radio station that I worked at thinking, this is just handing somebody a how-to manual. Like, I don't know that this is such a great idea. I think having a one-on-one adult conversation is the best way to keep everybody in line. But again, that's what the corporate structure does. It's brochures and pamphlets and emails. And some people need that. It's kind of a form of secular religion. I thought about how many people in this country are probably, heavier drinkers than they care to admit. And the fact that they have a Monday through Friday job from 9 to 5, they have to show up at that insurance agency in a suit and tie or at least a jacket. It keeps them in some boundary. It corrals them. Where they get in the car and they drive, so they know they can't have a mimosa for breakfast because they've got to drive and they don't want a DUI because maybe they've already had one or their friend did and they know what it is. And then they get in the cubicle and they got to do what they do, and maybe they have a belt at lunch, but they know they can't have too many because they got to drive home. And they do their thing, Friday happy hour to Sunday at the end of the third game. I know a lot of people like that, and I'm not saying it with any judgment. I'm just checking in on some people that I really care about, because with that gone, I think there's a lot of people doing their job in their underpants drinking. And one of the stories that I sent myself this week that totally cracked me up, and I want to read the headline correctly because I don't have to read the whole story. This is like back in the day when I was on the radio where sometimes I would just read the headline because the headline was enough. Okay, so here it is. Are you ready for this headline? Maryland police issue final warning for resident getting mail without pants on amid coronavirus stay at home. There was some dude in Baltimore that was like, screw it. I'm just going to walk out to the mailbox in my tidy whities. And I don't know that that's technically illegal, but evidently the neighbors complained and said, come on, man. And I have to tell you, I was driving on Sunset Boulevard this week, and the homeless situation in Los Angeles is becoming untenable. And I think part of it is because they're, imagine if you don't have a cell phone. And I mean, this isn't even about the Monday through Friday day drinking. Imagine if you don't have a cell phone and you're kind of out of it, and maybe your brain's fried, maybe you're schizophrenic or whatever led you to be in that pop-up tent under the underpass. There are people that have their wits about them enough. They can read a headline, but there's not even newspaper stands anymore. And you can't enter a store without a mask. So I have a feeling, an inkling, a notion that there are an awful lot of homeless people that don't know what's going on, that are wondering when they come into some level of lucidity, where has everybody gone? Why has it become so difficult to, beg for leftovers on Restaurant Row? They have a notion of something, just as I have a notion of their condition, but I don't know, and they don't know. So just driving down the regular old street, there was an African-American homeless man with his pants so far down, you could almost see what religion he was. I think you guys can figure that one out. And I was thinking, on any other day, he would not be able to stand on the corner of Sunset and Vine like that. But now, it's kind of like we have bigger fish to fry. And I think that, when I hear sirens, I ask myself, where are they going? Who are they going to arrest? What crime can be taking place when everyone's in their home? What cars are getting jacked when nobody's parked in the shopping mall and everybody's standing in line outside the store 6 feet apart, not speaking? So it'd be really obvious if you're trying to steal a car now. I hope, but again, hope is, what you do when you don't have full faith. I hope that, people are not getting hurt, that being with someone all day and all night for a month plus isn't leading to arguments, pushing and shoving. I have seen some news stories that I didn't even bother to pull up because there's no need to discuss it. We can all imagine. Who among us hasn't wanted to stab somebody when we weren't stuck with them? I mean, not like with a nail file, not anything that would really hurt them. But the point is that, I observe these things because everything is taken on a whole, the article in the Atlantic talked about recalibration. And as we try to recalibrate, how we're going to get this under control, and how Comic-Con one of the stories I pulled was that Comic-Con was pulled. No Comic-Con for the first time in 50 years. That's a lot of sad nerds, boys and girls. It wasn't rescheduled. No Comic-Con for 2020. Not to mention, I can't even imagine how many people have stockpiles of homemade drugs because Coachella was canceled. You can watch Coachella. But going back, because anybody who listens to my radio show knows that this is what I do. Going back to my thought about, the void being filled. It's a lot of information now because there's two things that hook people. The polarities, love and fear. And if you can terrify people, they will keep their eyes on you because they want to know what. And I've seen so many stories where at the end of the day, it goes back to Passover. Why is tonight different than any other night? So there was an old folks home, senior citizen, whatever you want to call it, that had claimed that, people were getting better. And then there was a whistleblower who, somebody followed it down the road and there were 17 dead bodies in a makeshift morgue in an old folks home that was designed to hold 3 people. And I'm not even giving you the details of what city it happened in. It's a big story. It was probably on your Apple News. But I thought, that's a terrible thing. But old people die all the time. And I don't say that to be callous. I say it because it doesn't change my life in this moment. It's a bad thing. But I'm here to tell you, I perform on cruise ships. They all have morgues. And a lot of very old people cruise. They enjoy it. And I jokingly tell them, stay alive. It's part of my act. And I'll tell you why. Because when you're at home and you're 80, 82, 78, pick a number. When you're at home, you have to cook for yourself. Maybe you're lazy. Maybe you drink Ensure. Maybe you eat crackers and cheese and coffee for breakfast. You're in a place probably with air conditioning. If you're on a cruise, you're of means, so you probably live in a somewhat climate-controlled environment. And one of the best parts of working on cruise ships is watching the old people, come up the ramp. I watch the gangway because it's very much like the gates of Disneyland. Every old person looks like a child. Their face does something beautiful when they're getting on the cruise, and they have matching T-shirts, and it's just really adorable. And those very same people that live in this environment in Illinois get on a cruise ship in the Caribbean. It's hot, it's sticky. They're going from warm, super hot, moist air to like super freezing. Cruise ships are very cold, and they have 3 meals a day. They eat like they're going to be shot in the morning. They buy the drink pass. They figure, I'm going to get my money's worth. They're drinking more than they ever drank, and they're walking long distances because they're distracted and they're excited. I'm here to tell you, they drop like flies. It happens all the time. I'm not saying it's a good thing. It kind of is, because that's obviously a good way to go on a cruise, having a good time. You don't want to go in a nursing home where you feel you're being neglected. But the point is that reading the stats isn't going to change your life. One of the articles I read today was that we are now investigating. We have intelligence agencies investigating that it may not have started in a wet market by eating a bat. It may have started in a lab. Really? Shocker. Lucky I was seated when I read that headline, or I would have fallen over. So what? It goes back to the who shot John. What can I do about that? What can I do about the numbers in China being underreported? Another article. What can I do about, Trump claiming that he has total power? Today, I can't do anything. In November, we can all do something. And again, I'm not a political person. What I'm saying is going back to that filling of the void. Today, I chose to fill the void with just not knowing what happened between 1983 and June of 2009 in Michael Jackson's life, and deciding that it didn't care, that I didn't care, that I feel for all of the parties in that narrative that were injured, including Michael himself, but that I enjoyed human nature in a way I hadn't in a long time. That's what I chose to fill the void with. I chose to fill the void with that what is a good use of my time is feeling that I'm getting stuff that's in me out of me, that I'm here with you guys, that I'm keeping my word, that I'm showing up at 3:30 every day on Facebook no matter what. And today I look like a maniac because I decided I wanted to just run because I am a runner, which will bring me full circle to what I wanted to talk about. And one of the things I talked about in my Facebook Live show this week, and it's not really a show, it's just a check-in, it's an afternoon coffee club, is that, every family has a runner. And the runner isn't necessarily, the smartest or the best looking or the bravest, but they are the most curious and courageous. Because courage is when you do something even when you're afraid. I'm not an organically brave person. I'm kind of a chicken. I really am. As long as we're being honest with each other, I'm afraid of a lot of things. And we'll have a very long discussion on another night. And maybe when this is done, we're going to do a little live chat and we can actually talk about it in a more conversant way. But, the runner of the family is the person who wants to go further and see more and have adventures and accomplish more than where they came from, than their people, their tribe, their community, their family. And runners tend to attract runners and befriend runners. And we are companions, but we're not partners. That's why I've never been a writing duo. Those things don't usually end well. Look at Martin and Lewis. Because things are not even when people say this is 50-50. That's not how it is. When you have people that you love, you pass the football back and forth. That energetic football. It's like Seinfeld talks about the hand. There shouldn't be a hand. No one should lord any sort of power or sway over another person. And I was talking about this on one of my Facebook Lives, is that, when you genuinely care about other people, you don't have to compromise. You surrender. You say, you know what, I'm going to let you have what you want because A, it's not that important to me, and it appears to be very important to you. So runners genuinely attract other runners and befriend other runners, and we run parallel, side by side, not enmeshed, side by side. And I'm going to guess that a lot of you are runners, which is why what I say resonates with you. And we live in a polarity, runners, because there's always that admiration and respect that people have for us. Like, it's the old, what I always say, look at Chuck, he went to America. This is from one of my Facebooks. You wanted to hear me curse. Who the fuck does Chuck think he is? He went to America. I have a lady, Heather, who always says, like, you never curse or drop the F-bomb, which I do on stage from time to time. But to me, that's like a lot of Scovilles. It's a lot of heat. That's a hot pepper. I don't curse all the time. But yeah, but that is kind of where it would be. Who do they think they are? That they're too good to stay here with us. And if you're the runner in your family, you know what I mean. People ask your opinion. They may ask for a loan. You're the leader. Everybody's excited when you come home for Christmas or Hanukkah or a birthday party. But the minute you leave, you're the one they talk trash. She doesn't look that good. She's had a lot of work done. I think that's Botox. Did you notice her face was a little, you know what I'm talking about. And I'm just doing the girl one. I'm sure there's an equivalent of a boy one of like, he might be doing a little too well. Look at the belly on him. He's probably got the gout. Probably eats oysters every day. Whatever. I wish I could eat oysters every day. But when you're a runner, it's a responsibility. The responsibility is not to fill the void with bitterness or being upset that people didn't support you when you ran, that they maybe were skeptical and maybe they didn't get excited about what you were doing until it was a proven commodity that could benefit them. Even still, right now in this time, I think that, thinking about Comic-Con and how we're all nerds, this is a real thing. Like, this thing that's going on is a real thing. It wasn't manufactured to create, thinning of the herds and whatever weird stories that people are putting out there. However this occurred is irrelevant. It is occurring. It is not whether we believe it or not. I got news for you. There are certain things that are, whether you agree or not. The law of gravity is a thing. If an Aborigine doesn't know who Newton is, it doesn't mean that if he, falls out of a tree, he's not going to hit the ground because he doesn't know or understand the law of gravity. This is actually occurring. Where it came from, what is actually going on, how it will come out of it is irrelevant. It's truly irrelevant. What's relevant is that there are people in our community that we respect and admire. My girlfriend Claudia told me there was a live feed today, sort of like staying in together or something. I didn't see it. I was preparing for you guys and pulling stories that now I'm not reading to you. I'll read you another headline so you can tell I really do care and I really do prepare. So this was another headline. U.S. explores possibility that coronavirus spread started in Chinese lab. That was a headline. Wuhan revises its coronavirus death toll up by 50%. And these are the stories that I liked. With South Africa on lockdown, the Lions are taking it very easy. And it was a whole article. And we have the same thing going on here in Yosemite with the bears. They don't know. And unlike the homeless, they don't rely on a steady stream of people for food and support and medical care. The lions in South Africa and the bears in Yosemite are like, hey, where did everybody go? And why do we care? They're gone. Let's enjoy ourselves. And there's actually a picture in the article on CNN of lions just laying on the warm pavement like they're on a futon. So happy. And the bears, I haven't seen any pictures of bears in Yosemite, but evidently they're just walking down the middle of the street where cars would usually be driving to a specific lookout. And they warn you that they're out there. And maybe nobody believed them, but now you will, because they're walking right down a paved road like the Country Bear Jamboree in Disney World. Mama, don't whoop little Buford. So this is a thing that's happening. And those of us that are the runners of our family I'm asking you in a very nice way, to fill your mind with the good stuff. Be very mindful as you're going through the news of what affects you directly. Why is today different than any other day? Why is today different? Because 17 bodies were found? Because China, tipped up 50% of what really happened because it was a lab and not a bat, because the president and some governors got into a pissing contest because it was extended till the 15th. Why does that affect you right now, other than the fact that we all want to get back to work? We all want to make actual cash money again. We all want to know that this situation is, if not under control, manageable. We all want to know that. But it is manageable in your home where you're safe, which is why, one of the other headlines was all of these people saying that they're actually, saying free Minnesota, free, really? You're in your house with, your phone or a TV set or a radio. I mean, no matter how rural you are, which would mean you're pretty safe, but no matter how, this is, unless you're the Unabomber, you probably have it pretty good. You probably have it pretty okay. And, is it fun? No. Can you make it more fun? Sure. I've been listening to a lot more music. In the past, I was more of a silent person when I was writing, or I would have TV shows that I like. So it's more like a soundtrack, whether it's Mad Men or The Sopranos, which I've seen every episode many, many times. But for some reason, I've gravitated back to music. Like today, when I was running, I heard, this is for you, Ginger. I heard Daughter of Darkness by Tom Jones. Daughter of Darkness. That's a very obscure hit, but it's a good one. Clearly, I bought it because it's on my phone. And I thought, Tom Jones is like in his early 80s, I think. He still looks good. I saw him recently, and his voice is amazing. He's a widow now, if anybody knows him. But the point is, I thought, I hope that these people that are treasures, whether it's Betty White or Lily Tomlin or Tom Jones, just like my dry cleaner, I check on people to see if they're still alive and healthy, because that's what is fun for me. I make up, as I said earlier, my own news. I create my own fake news, but it's happy fake news. Tom Jones as well, for the record. As last time I looked. I'm going to wrap this part up by talking a little bit about, going from runners to gunners is really just embracing this situation as, Star Wars. I grew up with I'm not calling it like New Hope, it's Star Wars. And I grew up with this, and I talked about this on the Facebook show, but it bears repeating. This is a mission. We're on a mission. We're on a mission to keep each other safe and to keep each other sane and to point out what's good and to share things that brought us joy, like me almost crying in the parking lot of my dry cleaners. And, checking on people, because there is no stasis on a physical plane. And a certain level of panic is going to set in. It is setting in. And panic creates paralysis and bad decisions. And I'm very hopeful that, that the right amount of people have the right amount of courage that can transform into, resistance leaders, that we're going to resist panic. We're going to resist the desire to just say screw it and take your mask off. And here in LA you can't get in any place without a mask, but I did see people today on my run that I guess figured we're just walking down the street in our own neighborhood. I did see people without masks, and I saw a play date where there were two little girls far apart on a blanket and two moms in folding chairs far apart, and but nobody had masks on. They kind of had them. And I could see that it was a social distancing play date. But again, they're doing their thing. I didn't judge. I wasn't upset. I had my mask on. It's hard to run with a mask too. It makes your face really warm. But, which is why if you look at today's video on Facebook, I look particularly sweaty and disgusting. I'm saying these things because it's important that we step it up. That those of us who have the will, those of us who have the wherewithal, those of us who have the capacity to be a little more discerning and have a little more self-control, and to really not allow ourselves to be dragged down. Like, some of these stories are so negative. And when you really pull it apart and ask yourself, this is a terrible thing, but what does that have to do with me? Like even dissing people. Like there was a story this week about how Elon Musk said that he had donated X amount of ventilators. Well, ventilators are a very expensive piece of equipment, between $15,000 and $20,000. What he had actually donated were CPAP machines, which are like those masks that people that need oxygen in their sleep. Well, it's still something. Did he purposely aggrandize his donation? Potentially. Did he not know what it was? Potentially. I can't answer that. But did there really need to be a bunch of news stories dedicated to like Elon Musk is full of it because he said he did this great thing and he only did this really good thing? Can't we just say like, hey, the really good thing is good? Because one of the things that I read about the people that are under 65 that are having the real problems are the morbidly obese. People that are between 60 and 100 pounds overweight have a 50% greater chance of ending up in the hospital and having to need critical care. Not they have high blood pressure or heart or particular lung, just obesity. Because I was reading about how genetics have a lot to do with this, and people that are genetically predisposed towards inflammatory type diseases, meaning arthritis, joint inflammation. Well, obesity, like diabetes type 2, is something that creates inflammation within the body. And evidently that's like, maple syrup to the coronavirus. So anybody that has an obese family member, an older family member who's old and obese, probably, in the hospitals, this is terrible, but they call them piggy masks because it's you got to put that thing on to sleep. So whatever Elon Musk donated is helpful. And there were a lot of them. He donated a lot of them. And I choose to think, okay, that was a good thing. He did a good thing. And, I'm going to just believe that he was confused. What I really wanted to talk about in these final moments also was that a lot of us have felt like outsiders. If you're a runner, you've probably felt like an outsider. And interestingly enough, I was thinking as I read the story about cripple time and the way that people that have ongoing situations or physical maladies or mobility issues, they've always felt the way some of us are feeling now. And I don't know if you really have seen this in the headlines and looked into it, but I have, because I like to say that I'm a dangerous minority, meaning that I'm, a Latino woman. And even though I never go in the sun, and now I'm a particular type of pasty, I haven't been in a long time. I was raised around, I'm a first generation. My dad died of congestive heart failure. I was thinking about that today when I was running, that if my father were alive right now, I would be in terror, because he was a very stubborn man and he did what he wanted to do. And he'd be the guy that, even though he has a pacemaker with a defibrillator, would probably try to go down to some Cuban market in Miami, Sedanos or something, and, not be careful. He was that guy. And I'd be terrified that both of my parents could potentially fall. Now I'm just worried about my super stubborn mother who wants to fly home to San Francisco because she's been stuck in Florida for a month and a half, almost 2 at this point. She wants to get to her home. And I don't want her to get on a plane until this thing flatlines, because she has what's called reactive airway, which is kind of like stress-related asthma. So I thought about how, we have been outsiders. Most of us have felt like an outsider at some point in our lives. And outsiders are usually the most flexible people. They're usually the people that adapt. I have a wonderful, wonderful friend, not a close personal, a friend I haven't met, named Sandy, who checks in with me every day at the 3:30 Facebook Live. She has a carpet cleaning business. She's got 2 or 3 side hustles. She's driving for Postmates now. She's private messaged me on Facebook on several occasions to let me know that if I need food, she'll deliver it without a fee, just because I've been of service to her in some way. And she's actually texted me pictures of like plastic shields on the corner of Vermont and said, let me know. I'll happily pick one up and drop one at your building. Don't even have to meet me or touch me. I'll be happy to leave it. And it's things like that, when people step up and you don't leave your friends stuck, because there is no stasis on a physical plane. And if somebody is stuck, if they're not moving forward, they're moving back. So as we move into looking around us and saying, who really needs our extra attention and our love? If you have a Latino friend or an African American person in your life, I'm a comedian, I got tons of both. This is actually affecting those communities dramatically more than other communities. I'm sure a lot of it has to do with stress, diet. It's a tale as old as time. There's more cigarette ads and liquor ads and cheap, unhealthy food because it is cheap, and heart disease. Look, none of this is new. It's just this situation, this flood, is washing away a lot of the niceties, a lot of the, it's washing the lipstick off the pig. We're starting to really see inequities and imbalances and lifestyles that go from generation to generation within certain communities, that maybe today's the day we say, you know what, it might cost a little more to buy some lettuce, but that might be the better way to go. They're saying that, as a matter of fact, to eat more colorful vegetables, that it builds your immune system. So when and by the way, these are my real journals that I take the time to put stickers in, and yeah, I'm an overgrown child. I want to read you before I leave you, and then we'll have a chat. And the rules of the chat are no cursing, don't ask me out on a date, and don't post a dick pic, because it's been happening in an inordinate amount. And I know it's because people are stuck in their homes, and I'm not pissed or offended. It's just like, enough already. And for the record, women are not stimulated in the same way that men are. And that's, I like it as much as the next gal, probably more, but I don't need it on my phone. Thank you. So I wrote this, and it's so crazy to me to think that I wrote this a year ago. A year ago, I wrote this, not quite a year, April 28th of last year, when I sat down to write my one-woman show, which has been a year in the writing, and I'll probably share pieces of it with you here. I always sit down with an intention before I create a stand-up act. Everything I do is thematic. And before I sat down to write the first draft of what would be a 90-minute one-woman show that would potentially go up at a place like, the Geffen, but I was going to workshop it at Hermosa, which will be there, thank goodness, when this is all over. I said, what do I want this show to be about? And I'm going to show you the writing because it's very, very, it just comes out. Like there's no scratches and crosses. It just comes out, stream of consciousness. I said, what do I want the backbone of this show to be about? And here it is, straight up. I am here now, period. I finally thought, fought, and believed enough to get here. I fought to think better and believe more. I took up arms against fear and doubt, despair, depression, and the devil in all forms. I am grateful to be here. I fought enough and thought enough and believed enough to get here because I am and have always been more than enough. Somewhere deep in my soul, I always knew it. The fight was always to free the knowingness. What this pandemic has done has been absolutely galvanized this for me. All of you will get through this. You are enough. You have what it takes. Share it with other people. Love hard, forgive harder, and get as happy as you can, as fast as you can. That ends the official part. Now I'm going to figure out how to turn my camera around and be able to see if you have any questions or comments for me. So bear with me. First time. I'll do my level best to make it not super freaky awkward. Okay, here we are. So now you can see the lighting set up. Oh, this is all kinds of, all right, let me turn the camera around. There you go. Here we are. So if anybody has anything they want to ask me, I don't know where it will appear or how it will appear. This is my first time doing this, but hopefully we'll get something. And if not, we'll sign off for the night. I'm doing this remotely with a friend of mine. So Stanton, is there any place I should be looking? I'm going to call him. Hey, Stanton, I hit chat, but I don't see anything. Okay, it says chat with host or other guests.
Other guests.
Yeah.
So choose chat with other guests.
Okay. Sorry, it's making a weird noise. Would it be appropriate to abandon ship on this and practice having people post things? Because I can't see anything. Do I have anybody that's saying anything? Oh, all right. Here. All righty. So Ginger, she said hi. All right, I can see it. Can you see me? All right, here you guys go. Only 8 more thumbs up to get Monique to 50 likes. Thank you. Thank you, Monique. Somebody said, thank you. Wonderful. Tom Wilson, thank you, Monique, for always looking for the bright side. Ginger said hi, so she liked that I did her music. I can see you all. I see all of your names. Derek. Oh, Ginger, when are you coming back to Colorado Springs? Ginger, that would be, I'm booked end of July, August 1st, that weekend. Oh, my friend Mark Pitta says hi. Thank you, Mark. It's so nice to see you. And, oh, so nice. Hi, Monique. I love you. Is it true that the great comedians draw their inspiration from life hurts and painful personal growth? Absolutely, Hugo. I tell people comedy is tragedy plus time. It's actually an old Woody Allen. I don't think he invented it, though. And my friend Jan, how do we do a thumbs up? We'll figure it out, Jan. And Martha. So everybody's saying wonderful. They love me. They love date night. I'll try to hear a little cleavage. This is a vintage dress. I love this dress. I dress up for you guys. My hair's squeaky clean. Just washed it. That's why it's so limp. You know, that old, I just washed my hair and I can't do a thing with it. And now you guys are saying you're going to visit each other, Martina and Ginger. Mark Pitta, who's a comedian, says we are all from broken homes. No, you're not, Mark. Aren't your parents still married? So long story short, you guys, thank you for popping up and doing this live chat. I'll get better at it, I promise. Do I have any bookings in Virginia? Not yet. But I would love to go. And here's one of the things that I want to talk about is that something is formulating in my brain that I may just do a cross-country comedy by contribution. Like if you have a club that has a space for me and we can guarantee a bar and a mic and 6 feet between people, I don't care at this point. I may just drive cross country, me and Nola, and just show up wherever there's a stage and a mic and a space. You know, that'll be my new theme song, The Space Between Us by Dave Matthews, which is a great song. Here is a saying, always fall back on, we are all forged in the fires of life's battles, and it's only through teamwork that we succeed. I agree with you on that, Dan Martin. So, and somebody says, do a Zoom stand-up. Oh, Mark, your parents divorced when you were 9? I didn't know that. For some reason, I thought they were still together. So I'm not very good at the live chat. Clearly, I have kind of sucked at it. But it's my first one, and I'm going to get better. And just seeing all of your names makes me really, really happy. Just seeing you guys makes me so happy. All of you are very, very important to me. I'm not going to cry like I did over my dry cleaner, but I'm happy. I feel tremendous joy. So good night and tons of love and blessings to you guys. And I'll be here next Saturday night, and I will master the live chat. All righty. Stanton's doing this remotely. So, all right, Stanton, it's a wrap. Bye, guys.